Oh, God dang it.
because I no longer have access to our custom background. We're
Oh,
forced to slum it with a free background, and we are broadcasting on my personal YouTube, which I have almost
are-
never used.
I mean, are we witnessing the death of the gospel?
No, the gospel is just as many great religions have to do. It's going into exile until we can solve our religious problems.
Okay, so in 30 years we'll find the promised land and a couple of tablets.
Something like that. Something like that. So how have you been?
I mean, I've been all right. I had a very busy weekend because we just started playtesting on what we've been designing.
Oh wow.
Um, it's the first playtest, so we're looking for a lot of bugs. There's still a lot of work to be done, but that first playtest was a big deal. Um,
This is for a straight tabletop playtest, right?
yeah, yeah. Um, but this means I didn't get time to read a lot of comics or dig into a lot of our material for tonight, but I did in fact read a comic.
Oh, what'd you
So
read?
I of all things, I went out and I read the Death Dealer comics. So uh between bits of work, I was on the internet, wandering the wherefores of the internet as you do, and came across clips that suddenly cropped up in my feed of Fire and Ice, the Ralph Bashki, Frank Frazetta bowel movement. Quite frankly, um, because while I am a fan of barbarians and adventure fiction, even I will say that it doesn't matter how artistically gorgeous it is. It's written by 5-year-olds, man. It's
Hey,
not.
hey, hey. Now, X Cup was pretty good, and it was written by like a 6-year-old.
See, I didn't like Axe Cop either, but
Oh,
I, I'm sorry that the novelty that a small child wrote it does not excuse that it's basically awful. But I mean, if I'm going to be fair, I don't like Assy McGee either. It's just not my style of jokes, right? Um, but regardless, I watched the film and I was like, huh, I seem to recall the Death Dealer had some comic books, so I looked them up, and he actually had some novels as well. There's an expanded lore for Frazetta's character. Uh, and it was interesting because the last couple of episodes you've been talking about Conan and
I
Conan
have.
stories, and I assume you have a Conan story for us tonight.
Actually, don't. The
You
new
do not.
Conan
Okay.
book,
Well,
the new Conan book's not made it yet.
well. The important point is that you've been talking well. You've been lauding how these Conan books really capture the feeling of a Robert E. Howard story
Hmm?
while being original work. I don't actually think Death Dealer does that well. I think that they missed a step. See, Conan is a big stompy barbarian man.
Who is
Uh,
very intelligent, despite what many people think.
right, who is very intelligent, and he does go on adventures, but it's never actually, when you look into the deep lore, if you really pay attention, it's never actually Conan walks into a room and everyone in that room dies because Conan is such a badass, right? Conan has no magic. Conan has no. He doesn't actually have fate on his side, although at various points he has carried the beneficence of powers he himself does not understand, right? What Conan has is a drive and a unshakable will to survive in the face of threats he would largely prefer to avoid. Right?
Mhm.
The story of the Death Dealer is literally a dude was tricked into putting on a helmet enhanced with the power of the god of death, that the god of death would take possession of him if his will was not up to the task, right? And so he has resisted with aid, the god of death. He has taken control of the helmet. But as long as he wears the helmet, he has the power of the god of death. He could just murderize waves of dudes. Everyone that stands before the death dealer must fall. And it's like, so there's no challenge in his tearing around. Because you can't kill the guy who's carrying the spirit of death in his pocket. Right?
Mhm.
Um
But I do have to say, this does tie in a little bit with some other stuff I've been
oh good.
reviewing.
Well, I'm glad that we're actually going to have a suitable segue. So let us segue. Segue.
So I watched the movie Outcome, which was a very weird movie. It's a Jonah Hill movie, and it's very off-putting. So let me tell you the premise of the movie. All right, are you sitting down?
I am sitting down and I have coffee.
What What if Keanu Reeves was not Keanu Reeves, but was a normal piece of shit actor from Hollywood?
Okay.
And the movie is about him coming to terms with his being a piece of shit and apologizing to people and realizing that through blackmail that he needs to just move on and actually be the good person he's been pretending to be and not tell people that he was actually a piece of shit. Because if he tells people he's been a piece of shit, then all of his being good is actually going to be fake.
Okay.
And he's like a child actor who's acted for years, and he stopped acting for the last 5 because he had a heroin addiction. And he hid
Hmm.
that from the world. But it was an odd movie. Keanu's performances were excellent. They had like his mom becoming one of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And he had to do his apology to his mother on the reality show. And Jonah Hill assembles a PR crisis team, including an Asian and a black person, who say, "Listen, we hope you didn't use any of those words, but if you did, since there's a paycheck in it for us, we're going to help
All right. So let me ask a weird question in terms of parsing, but it's a serious question.
you." Mhm.
It's a movie about Keanu Reeves playing Keanu Reeves, but not Keanu Reeves, realizing he's fake and gay.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
as a Jonah Hill movie, is it not still ultimately fake and gay?
Yes. But the Jonah Hill movie is about it being fake and gay.
Right. So doesn't that just mean that it's not excused from its fakeness or gayness? It's just meta. Like being aware you're fake and gay does not excuse you from being fake and gay.
Well, that's the whole point of what Keanu Reeves' character comes to as his conclusion at the end of the movie. That the real apology he needed to make was his friends and not the people he pissed off along the way. And that, if he just like did a Hollywood interview where he said, "Listen, I've been a piece of shit my whole life and trying to get better. Just be a humble person from now on, and you're fine."
Which is very Keanu coded.
It is. It is.
Because here's the thing, I want to be very clear. Keanu Reeves is not fake and gay. Evidence has shown he is actually every bit as nice and as kind as he pretends to be. There are people out there that are like this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if you heard, there's a Malcolm in the Middle legacy sequel
I
that's
did.
come out.
I did, and I heard it's really fake and really gay.
It is terrible.
Here's the
So,
thing. Here's the thing. I know you're going to describe this, and I want to hear this, but I want to start with the controversial opinion that is not going to win me any friends. Malcolm in the Middle was always faking gay, and I fucking hate that show with a burning passion.
mm,
All
mm,
right. So let me explain very quickly why. So Malcolm in the Middle is basically a very stock standard, broken home, blue collar family story. Okay, because
Mhm.
it's comedy. It doesn't need to be very hard. I'm fine with it being the honeymooners.
It's a
Okay,
lower middle class family with
yeah,
one kid who has the potential for greatness.
right. But here's the thing: we got to walk through this because what we have the smart kid, we have the dumb kid, we have the rebel kid that's a teenager, we have the little menace who is also very smart, but he is the youngest and is going to be evil. Okay, perfectly expected range of characters. We
And
have
then there's the baby they had in the later season.
right. So then we have Bryan Cranston before he became Bryan Cranston. I'm a somebody, and he's actually he's still the bumbling dad, but I want to be clear, he's a treasure in that show. He's actually a lot of fun. Okay. There are occasions where they have good jokes, like when he drops into the kids' room and says, "Who wants to earn $5 to take the heat?" That is totally a dad thing,
Yeah.
right? My problem with that show is that it is the crowning proof. It is the apex of the fucking shrew mom. Okay,
Mhm.
that mother is the worst. She is
And
an
her
awful
and,
person,
and her mother is even more bad than that.
right? And the thing is that this was me coming off of a growing awareness and a distaste for a tendency I found in other sitcoms. So the growing progression of fake and gay, where the bumbling dad is a bumbling idiot, and the mom is supposed to be this wise, holding it together person, but she's actually nothing but a bitch. But she gets lauded for being a bitch because she holds together this family, while everyone else is castigated for being the problem. And I fucking hate it. I have always hated it. Okay. Uh,
Mhm.
if we want to talk about not faking gay for just a second, and then we'll get back to talking about the new Malcolm in the Middle show, uh, a based show that more people needed to see is Titus. Did you ever see Titus?
I did. Titus was a good show because
Titus was fucking based. And why
Christopher
was it
Titus
based?
is a great guy who actually was grounded in the life experience of what his show was.
Right, but here's the thing, because this is the important contrast. Stacy Keach is a piece of shit in that show.
Mhm. Mhm.
He might be funny because it's Stacy Keach. He's got great comedic timing. He's a great actor, but he's playing a scumbag, right?
Mhm.
But then there's the episode where Titus's mom comes back into the picture, and she seems pretty put together until you realize she is dangerously schizophrenic, right?
Mhm.
And Stacy Keach doesn't just throw her out, divest himself of her, right? Stacy Keach, a piece of shit, says, "We'll get you the help you need because you need the help." And they don't put her back in the hospital like we're just glad to be rid of her. Everybody admits she's a lovely person that they care a lot about, and it's very sad that she is very unwell,
Mhm.
right? Because Christopher Titus, a based human being, understands that there has to be a fundamental connection between all of these wild characters in this show that makes it a family unit and not just an arrangement of tropes that you move around on the board,
Mhm.
right? And that's the thing, is that you're saying the new we're going to talk about the new Malcolm in the Middle, which
Mhm.
apparently is not doing well. But I
Mhm.
just want to make the argument, and people are free to jump in, set me on fire. I want to hear it. If we have any audience, let's go. I just want to put out there that from a certain perspective, Malcolm in the Middle was always fake and gay. Being
Mhm.
more on the nose about being fake and gay might not actually be a change. It's just the fake and gay you grew up with.
Now, what I want to kind of frame
Yeah,
this in first as a point
let's
of
get into it.
analysis. Um, so it's a deconstruction, right? Malcolm in the Middle's. This is a deconstruction of Malcolm in the Middle. So here's the problem. Let's take Malcolm away from the things that make him human. Is he suffering in a terrible family environment, right?
Right.
Now, what if we remove Malcolm from that terrible family environment, but we don't make Malcolm a better person. What if we don't change any of the things that make Malcolm just awful? That is why this show is so terrible.
So they took a single episode of Malcolm in the Middle and just stretched it out to an entire series.
Well, no, no. So the streaming season is based around mom and dad having a 40th wedding anniversary,
Right.
and the family's coming together because 40 years, that's a big deal, right? Um,
So
and Malcolm has engineered his entire life to not be around his family, and the show opens by letting you know Malcolm is an awful person whenever he's around his family.
I mean, again, this was an episode of Malcolm in the Middle. So I want to posit this because having given a big criticism, I want to be clear. I have watched the show. Like, I'm not making this up. Do you recall an episode where Malcolm developed an ulcer?
Yes.
Do you remember why he developed an ulcer?
I don't remember why.
Because he had figured out that the problem with his life, why he was having a hard time living with his family, was because he kept engaging them in conflict, right? Being the one smart man screaming into the void, I'm the smart man, why are you all so dumb, didn't get him anything. So he was basically, he wasn't consuming the dumb, he was swallowing his anger, right?
Mhm.
And he developed an ulcer. And his mom, when she found out, went, "What the fuck do you have to be upset about enough to have an ulcer? How dare you?" She castigated him for having an ulcer when he had an epic crash out because he just couldn't swallow the bullshit anymore. Right?
Mhm.
Now, does this make him an awful person? Kinda.
Well,
But
hold up, hold up,
the
hold
fact of the
up.
matter is that the clear statement here is that he's tried to play by the rules, and he's surrounded by people so neurotically fucking just destructive that he can't interact with them. It is actually physically bad for him.
So Malcolm becomes the president of a food bank, a very
Okay.
posh food bank, and he lives two two plane transfers away from everybody else in the family.
Did did he not as he became an adult, did they discover that he's not as smart as he thought he was, and he didn't actually get like the big science job everybody expected or something?
Well, no, no, mom wanted him to be president, and he chose this job because it gives him the ability to never have to go be around his family because there's always a crisis.
Right.
And he knocks up a drunk girl at a frat party in college who leaves the baby with him, and that's his daughter in the series.
Okay, so let me be clear and make sure I've got this right. They parse he's a bad person
Mhm,
because they go out of their way to make him a bad person
mhm,
so that they can tell you he's a bad person.
mhm.
That's pretty shitty writing, frankly.
And then the daughter also does the fourth wall breaking conversation with the audience. But unlike Malcolm, she doesn't have friends. She goes to a rich prep school. She's intelligent, but she doesn't have friends. And everybody's mean girling her.
You mean because she's a smart person who thinks she's too good to have friends?
No,
Mm.
they're just being mean to her.
For no reason, magically from the ether.
Yes. And she
Okay.
wants to just go to a normal public school.
You know what? I can't actually fault that specific point because I had the opportunity to go to a more premier body and actively chose to go to public school. That being said, as a adult, I have now understood why that was a horrible mistake, and I would have been a much happier person had I gone to a better facility.
Mm-hmm.
But as a kid, I get that.
And the episode ends with Malcolm's youngest sibling, who's become trans for some reason.
Because it's
I
fake
mean,
and gay.
revealing to the parents that Malcolm knows about the 40th anniversary and he's not planning to come. So mom and dad go to Malcolm's house to find out not only does he have a daughter, which they were not told about, uh, but he has a girlfriend and all of this. And Malcolm says, "Of course, I didn't tell her about you, because if I did, then she'd want to talk to you, and that would mean I would have to talk to you."
And this makes Malcolm a bad person?
Yes, his father has a heart attack in his house over this, and Malcolm crashes out and runs out the door of his own house. He can't get the keys to his own car into his car. Is neurotic, and he runs off camera. And that is how we end the first episode of the show.
So I want to tell you about my aunt.
Mm-hmm.
My old man was estranged from his half of the family. Okay. And after my grandmother died, my aunt became the executor of the estate. Now, I had been told my entire life that my aunt's nickname was Aunt Attila. Okay. Because she was a brat. Okay. My
Mm-hmm.
dad used to tell tale of how my aunt would have grandma carry her in the house as a fully capable kid because she didn't want to get out of the car. Okay. It turns out that my grandmother was a real piece of work and played off her children against one another so that they would all have to love her competitively, right? The reason my
Mm-hmm.
dad wasn't involved in that is because my mother had basically, or my grandmother had decided that my dad was a problem. And so she just kind of dumped him socially to the curb. My family was fucked up on my dad's side.
Mm-hmm.
My aunt shows up to the executor of the estate. My folks came into money. That was nice. My aunt stuck around. My dad indulged her because he wanted to make that connection. He needed a connection. And people kept telling me, Joe, you gotta connect with your family. And I'm like, why? These people never sought me out for any of my birthdays. These people never tried to communicate with me at great length. I don't know these people. These are aliens, right? But they're your family and they're the only family you've got. It's like, no, the only family I've got is two people I grew up with. It's just right. I would feel the same about people on my mother's side of the family, even though they seem to be pretty chill. The thing is that those people, uh, I have no contact information for. They don't know me. I don't know them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
My aunt was on the outs with her boyfriend, so she came up here from California, and basically parked on my parents' floor for a month and a half, watching Cheers and Frasier on Netflix, and eating our food and not contributing to the house while being drunk. And my
That's a
dad
bad
wanted
time.
and my dad wanted this in his life. Then she decided she wanted to go to Vegas for a little fun because we're boring. And she invited me to go along. And I was like, well, I don't know. My folks were like, come on, Joe, it's gonna get you out of the state. You should travel at least once. See Vegas. I'm like, all right. So we went to Vegas. We stayed at the Camelot. I don't know if you've been. We took it a show, and I basically learned that my aunt has serious medical conditions and mental problems that she medicates with alcohol because medicating with the antipsychotic medication makes her feel weird. And we don't tell her that feeling weird is called normality. Um, it was an awful trip. I never want to go to Vegas ever again. And then we came home and she left. Yay. While she was there, while she was here, she bought my dad a new jacket and a chess set. Slightly less than a year later, my dad died. Very sad. died at the height of COVID. We didn't get to see him, but we informed the family that my father had died. She came down, very sad, to tell us how sad she was, and took back my father's jacket and my father's chessboard, and then walked out of our life. And I have never heard of it from this woman since. So as you may imagine, I did not go out of my way to tell her that my mother died.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I didn't walk away from my father's half of the family because they're I'm a horrible person. I walked away from my father's half of the family because I looked at it and said, I don't need these awful people in my life making my life worse.
Mm-hmm. That
So
is the Malcolm argument. However, the show also reveals Malcolm is the one who's starting all the antagonism at this point in his life towards his family.
Right, but that's the thing, though, is that within the context of the fiction, at what point is it Malcolm is actually being a piece of shit and not the author has declared you're a piece of shit, therefore we're going to present you as a piece of shit because all of the tools say you're a piece of shit?
So Malcolm in the show keys his own car because his brother said, man, you're really shoving that expensive car in my face.
Okay, that is stupid. I'll grant you.
He gets into an argument with his other brother at his grandmother's funeral over what kind of TV his grandmother had.
See, that's like these motivations. One, they're not funny for what should be a comedy show, and two, they're just dumb. Why would you do that? Why would you say that? And the argument is, well, Malcolm's a terrible person. No, that's not a terrible person. That's literally dumb.
And
brother says you're throwing your car in my face. You say, well, cool. You can look at it from somewhere else. It's my car. Fuck off.
And I watched Starfleet Academy.
Wait, there was more to watch? I thought we finished it.
No. Well, there is. There's a second season that's coming.
Well, yeah, but that's not here yet. That's a ways.
Right. Well, actually, it's going to be in like November, December.
Yeah. We have an entire season of more poison to consume.
But I watched the second season of Starfleet Academy over Malcolm in the Middle, the Legacy sequel.
I see. You're saying I would rather watch this poison than that poison.
Yeah, and the thing, it all comes down to the fact that they're deconstructing Malcolm, but not realizing that you need to show an element of Malcolm's character that is good. Malcolm spends a lot of time talking about how he's a really good single father. Well, we don't, see him being a good single father. We see him being a helicopter parent to his child, like his own mother. And it's not good.
Well, give me a second. I gotta remember the name of a show that I'm not remembering.
Yeah, the actor who played Dewey is off studying Victorian literature. Reading up on the later episodes of the show, they've apparently recast his character, and he's living a better life for not being a part of the show. Although, really, having Dewey's actor just talking about characters in middle 19th century fiction as like a cutaway gag would have been much better.
So here's the thing. There's another show contemporary with the original Malcolm in the Middle that does this story you're describing better. Can you guess what it is? Arrested Development.
Yes.
Do you remember how Arrested Development ended?
The first time?
Yeah, the first time. The one that matters.
I don't remember how it ended the first time because I didn't particularly like Arrested Development.
I didn't like it either, but I remember this. The dad, the main character, got in his car with his kid and drove away. Because he didn't need the mom, he didn't need his brother, he didn't need his cousin, he didn't need any of their bullshit, he didn't need the money. Because he was a successful guy, he had done things. And he said, my kid needs a stable environment to raise in, to not be exposed to all this craziness that you people bring to my life. Right? They actually illustrated him being the better person, because after, what was it, a season and a half, 2 seasons
Something
of
like
trying to navigate this family and trying to wring something out, he realized these people are never going to get better. These people are always going to be vain and self-interested. They're always going to do crazy, stupid stuff, and it is always going to hurt me.
Mhm.
Right? If you're going to deconstruct Malcolm in the Middle and suggest that Malcolm is actually a bad person, then you have to show the opposite, which is not just that Malcolm is a bad person, but you have to show how the rest of his family are actually decent people.
Well, they
And
actually did. They actually did.
okay, but like how? Because that part we haven't gotten to yet.
So his second oldest brother, Reese,
Right, the one
he's
that went to
work.
military school.
No. Reese, the one who went to military school, is the oldest brother.
Oh, okay. So you're talking the middle brother that was dumb. Did he
Yeah.
figure out not to be dumb?
No, but he was getting closer to his dad as he moved back in home after his second or third divorce, and was learning how to do home construction projects. And that was helping him become a better person, learning to focus his mind.
Right.
And his oldest brother and his Asian wife were there being supportive of Lois and Hal. And Lois and Hal were just retired, and Hal was doing random shenanigans to show his wife how much he loved her. And she said, "You could do that,
Right.
but the 40th anniversary is me and what I want and what I'm dictating." And he wanted to violate that rule, but all of his black friends who were all divorced said, "Listen, man, you're the only one still married. You need to not piss that woman off."
Don't fuck that up, buddy.
So that's showing them being better people.
I mean, that's certainly interesting. I will grant you.
But I'm uninterested in looking at this Malcolm that they've established, because he's an uninteresting character who built his whole life to avoid his family.
So the thing is, again, there's another show that does this better. It's not a contemporary of the new Malcolm. It's a little older now, but it's out there. Did you see the follow up to Frasier?
I did not, because once that dog died, the dog died shortly after the final episode of the original run of Frasier. There wasn't really a point to watch it.
You were not a Frasier fan.
I was, but once the dog died, it was like, great.
You just took that deeply personal, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so quick rundown. So Frasier Crane was a secondary character on Cheers. Was very popular. Got a show called Frasier, where he had moved to Seattle and was getting on with his life as a radio show host. Ran for a very long time, considered one of the smartest shows on TV at the time. And the core of the show was not Kelsey Grammer being Frasier Crane, although that was certainly a component. It was not the ensemble cast, which included David Hyde Pierce, who's fucking amazing. It was Kelsey Grammer having to deal with his character's father, played by a well-known older TV actor whose name I forget, John Mahoney,
Mm-hmm.
who has also passed, sadly. But it was great because whereas Frasier was and Niles were super high-end, super elite Ivy grad douchebags, because apparently their mother had been very high class and intelligent and wanted the best for her children. The father was a retired cop and kind of beer and pretzels and did not go in for all this high end bullshit. So there's a certain amount of class disparity conflict implicit in the show, and a lot of fun back and forth. right?
Mhm.
So out of nowhere, they did another Frasier show on Netflix on streaming, where the idea was that a much older Frasier Crane was returning to Boston now to serve as a teacher, having done all he could in the psychiatry field in various ways, and his son was his roommate, his now adult son. And as a kid, when we saw the kid in the previous program, he lived with his mother, more or less, and went to all the Ivy League and all the high end stuff. So he'd been exposed to all the high class things, right? But he had broken with expectation, gone to trade school, and I believe become a plumber. And I want to be clear, we all know plumbers make good fucking money. Right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But he had chosen to be a very smart man living a blue collar life, which meant that now the positionalities were shifted. The father's the elite, who's like, couldn't you have done better? And the young man is like, yeah, but this is what I wanted to do. And their discourse is funny because comedy, but is also heartfelt because these are the kinds of relationships that men and sons have the world over always have,
Mhm.
right?
It's almost like it was well thought out.
Really.
But and I saw a sequel that was actually enjoyable. Do you remember Ready or Not?
The one about the family that kills the bride if she doesn't avoid uh, murder on the wedding night.
Well, that's one option on the wedding night, and only if you pull the wrong card, which she did.
Right.
And it's
Because
not
the movie.
murder. It's not murder. It's sacrificing her to
It,
Satan to
right.
restore
It's
their
eldritch
family's.
abominations.
Yes, to restore the family's power and connections to the Dark Lord. So this movie takes place immediately after the other movie. Our titular main character is in the hospital, being questioned by a police officer because there are things she needs to answer for. Her in-laws' house burned to the ground. She was covered in blood. She had various lacerations, stab wounds, and a
Right.
gunshot wound to the hand. And there were dead bodies. These are the sorts of things, especially when they're with rich families, police officers want questions on. And actually, my in-laws were a secret satanic cult. That's not the answer that
That's
is going to help you out.
that's not on most cops' bingo card.
It is not. It is not. And then our main character's sister shows up, who she's been estranged from. So estranged, she didn't mention her in the last movie. And she and her sister have a heart to heart moment. The sister's like, "Oh, you're totally going to jail."
Right.
But dot 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 because of what happened, there was an imbalance in the High Council of Satanic Families. So they activated a rare clause of double or nothing, where all the families who've been given the preternatural gift and talent from the Dark Lord are all going to hunt this person down. And
You know,
since there's this,
normally I think that's pretty stupid, but I'll give them credit where credit's due. That is a interesting way to continue the story.
yes, yes. So the leader from the North American faction is what if we combine Dick Cheney, uh, George Herbert Walker Bush, and Donald Trump together into a single person? And he is the leader of the Satanic High Council, which gives him the power and ability to make whatever he wants happen on Earth.
Okay.
There's a Chinese Satanic family, a Spanish Satanic family, and a Indian satanic family that is operating out of London. There was another American satanic family that ran a nudie magazine empire, but his bloodline was eliminated by Satan because they decided to kill the bride first.
Mm.
Now, the additional terms are not only you have to survive hide and seek, but if you win, you get to be the leader of the Satanic High Council. And she's like, well, what if I don't want to be? And they're kind of like, well, you don't really have a choice if you win. And
Right.
she and her sister are doing bickering and all that, and there's fighting. And also, under the rules, the different satanic families are not allowed to murder each other, because if you do that, Satan gets angry at you and
As you do.
makes you spontaneously combust. So
I mean,
there are
I kind of don't like the idea that Satan is directly like sitting on the sidelines with popcorn, going that one. But every movie setting has its own rules, so I'm fine with it.
but the Chinese one reveals that she actually had her lawyers look at the satanic contract, and
They
that
actually read the contract. Imagine that.
that they could just skip all this bullshit if she agrees, the titular bride, to marry somebody from one of the other families. Then that family automatically inherits the power over all the satanic things on Earth,
As you do.
as you do. The resolution is the Bush Trump Cheney analog. The male main character agrees to marry our main character, our female, who murders him after their wedding and before the formal coronation happens, throwing him into a giant satanic pit of sacrifice. And well, she's in charge, and you know what she decides to do?
Do tell.
She rejects the power, which there are
Huh.
no rules governing what happens when you reject the power from Satan.
I mean, it
But
seems like a grievous oversight, but then I assume most people would just be like, you wouldn't, nobody would ever refuse, you know?
that was what the lawyer actually said. There was a lawyer who represented the High Council, and he said, "Well, this was a this is a very underwritten section of the rules because we never thought that would happen." But there was a catch because if there wasn't a new leader of the High Council by sunrise, Satan was just going to murder them all. And so
As you do, as a Satanist want to do.
she threw the ring into the sacrificial pit, and all the different Satanists jumped in there and started fighting each other until they spontaneously combusted. And our main character and her sister briefly saw Satan physically manifest, and they left with the goat, wandering out of the resort where the satanic ritual murder festival was set to happen in. So this was an enjoyable movie.
It sounds like you had fun. It's a little weird, but okay.
Um, I think I'm not sure they can pull this rabbit out of their hat a third time. I think
I
Double or Nothing kind of burnt out what there was in the plot of the scheme.
so I want to give them credit where credit's due, but I still think that Your Next is the better movie in this genre.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see Your Next?
I think I did.
Guy brings his girlfriend to the family for a party,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there is a debate about the inheritance, right? So, unbeknownst to everyone, uh, the same boyfriend has arranged for a group of armed mercenaries, basically, to raid the house and murder the family, or force them to give him the will, right? and it all goes pear-shaped, not only because killing an entire room full of people is harder than you think, but because the girlfriend, while she is exactly what she seems like on the tin, was raised by her father, who was a survivalist. So she's a little bit more hardcore and a little bit more trained for defending herself than anyone suspected. And the movie ends much like uh Ready or Not, with the main character on the porch lighting a cigarette as the cops pull up with a burning house behind them and a building full of dead bodies.
Yeah, and the cops generally want to ask you questions about that.
They generally want to ask you questions about that. I don't recall why Your Next got panned or was not well received. Possibly because I think the two movies came out very close together, and so there was an assumption of overlap. But I mean, I think there's plenty of room for a concept. I don't think that any one film has the claim on a style of story.
So we're gonna do the thing that we have been want to do from time to time, where
Go
we've been
go
talking about
go into
Twitter
this.
drama.
I was gonna say, yeah, go into the slush fund and see what we've got.
Well, no. I had an interesting set of Twitter interactions, and we're gonna talk about it because I think it was a good thing to talk about. Second, that's not the button I want to push. Here we go. Share screen. Doot. I'm gonna do the full share. Doot. There we go. Now we're gonna go over to here. I'll scroll all the way back to the top. Of course, Gail Simone has decided to bring back the women in refrigerators thing.
Well, clearly, the money is starting to dry up, and she needs to get social cachet. So of course, she opened her mouth and gave liberally.
Well, I mean, her money's not drying out yet, but it's getting thinner. And so this gentleman, Rags of Time, made a comment. The problem is that the superhero is really limited, childish concept. You don't have unlimited stories to tell in that genre. How do how do female characters fit into adolescent power fantasies? It's a pretty stupid concern. My response is that is incorrect. You can tell all sorts of stories unless you're a hack. Well, why do the big two publishers the same 3 or 4 stories over and again? Hacks. There are obvious limitations in the game if you're a hack, sure. And I asked him a challenge which he failed to give me. Pitch me a story you can't tell in the superhero genre. So,
Right,
Joe,
and I didn't respond because I don't think there isn't a story you can tell in the superhero genre. But as you're about to ask me my opinion, I will say I think there are stories you shouldn't tell in the superhero genre, and
well,
shouldn't is
sure,
different than can't.
right. Like, for example, and I asked, I think it was Grok about this, and Grok said, well, you can't really tell a story of suburban ennui with the superheroes. I said, yeah, you can. It's called The Incredibles. And Grok was like, well, yeah, my example doesn't really work, does it?
Um, well, what I was getting at, because this is also pertinent to our current discourse, people have been talking about it. Invincible is a show that exists, and they're getting up into some of the most cringy, awful plot lines in that book, which include the Adam Eve abortion arc. Right now, if you ask me, Joe, what stories can you tell in a superhero story thing? You can tell any story, including like losing a baby, right? But if you ask me, should you tell a story about a superhero getting an abortion? No.
First of all, let's separate this into 2 categories.
Right.
Superhero goes to Planned Parenthood, get an abortion. You
Yeah.
probably should. Option two, we're going to come up with an abortion allegory.
Right.
Maybe you do that,
Maybe.
depending on the allegory. I'm still not convinced you should, but that is more likely to be good than superhero goes to Planned Parenthood. But more broadly,
Let me give an example. Let me take that. I'm going to take it. I'm going to run with it. You have a hero, and through a series of situations, they become the caretaker for a life form, right?
hmm,
And then it is revealed, this life form in this jar that you have cared for, that you have nursed and guided, is actually an incredible danger, right? Or someone's going to harm
hmm,
it, right? And what they're going to do to it could make it a dangerous thing. Like it's a alternate power source. You can't let the bad guy get their hands on it, type deal. Whatever context that makes the question of viability manifest, right?
hmm.
It could even be the discovery that though you've kept this thing alive, the fact of the matter is that its existence is horrific pain, right?
Hmm.
and and so you have to decide, do I preserve its life because life is precious, or do I let it go because releasing it is a mercy or a necessity? And that's your abortion analog, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing people can read into and make their own decisions on their own beliefs. And this is
But
where what's her name's argument falls apart, because she's forgetting that the reader has a thing to say about what they read.
well, I mean, she just thinks she can make negative comments about the reader, and they'll just read that. But
Right.
also,
They're not
let's go
readers, they're consumers, remember?
right, right. Let's go a step deeper.
Okay.
The popular discourse about abortion, and this is something since we're in exile on my YouTube channel, we can talk about a little bit more because
Sure.
it's not going to stink up church's YouTube channel.
Right?
Uh, is that most abortions are not over rape or incest or physical health things. Most abortions that happen are women who are saying, "I'm not sure I should have a baby." And I'm not sure I should have a baby with him.
And and let me be clear, just to put a pin in this before it comes up. While I am in favor of the existence of abortion for a multitude of reasons, rape, incest, the health and wellness of the carrier, um, at the same time, I do not believe abortion should ever be used as a form of birth control. Okay,
Well,
we got condoms, we got other assistance, we have the day after pill. If you're having an abortion to just because I don't like this guy and I don't want his baby, get fucked.
yeah, yeah. So you see, if you're really going to do abortion, allegory, you want to
Right.
really have it be something more like that, and you just have it be that like there's this symbiotic being that connects you with this villain, and you realize that symbiote who isn't bad, it's just a thing that happened. It's going to ruin your life and make you less the hero you need to be, and things are going to go pear shaped.
Oh my god. Oh my god, Larry, did you just guess what Marvel is trying to do?
I mean, they're kind of doing some of that with Venom, but yes.
I don't want to be right.
But that's how you do an abortion allegory. You do it like something like that. But I also want to go back to
Yeah.
just to
Yeah.
refresh everybody's memory about women in fridges, because I also commented on how women in fridges are stupid for other reasons. The
Right.
classic, your boy Dick Grayson getting raped twice, and during one of those rapes, he was scolded for having a woman deceive him and have sex with him, a shapeshifter.
Well, remember, this is because DC has posited officially that men cannot rape, or men cannot be raped. Only women can rape.
Yes, even though the authors who wrote both of these stories intended for the female character to rape Dick Grayson.
Right.
And Thor has been raped through mind control dozens of times in Marvel Comics history.
In matter of point, even though it is edgy as shit, there is exactly one comic that had a rape subplot where that rape subplot was resolved in a pleasing to the reader way. And can you guess what comic that is?
No.
Oh shit, what the fuck's their name? It's not Stormfront. Stormwatch?
Yes, Stormwatch.
Right. So they have their Superman analog, Apollo, right?
Mhm.
And he's in a gay relationship with their Batman analog, the Midnighter. And a bad guy raped Apollo while he was a captive, right? And this was horrible, and Apollo was deeply affected by it. And this was a stupid, awful subplot. And so later, when that villain was injured and at the Midnighter's mercy, and was running off his mouth about how he had his way with the queer bait, the Midnighter just produced like a powered post hole digger and smiled. Because we know what he did, and we all go, yeah, because a rapist got his.
And also, Superman has been raped multiple times in Superman continuity.
Jesus Christ. What? It's like comics go through phases, because like we had a rape phase apparently more than once, and for a while there, Bendis was Captain Cannibalism, where cannibalism was the worst possible thing everyone does all the time.
But the rape with Superman, the first one I remember, was especially interesting because there was a porno movie director who's actually from Apocalypse who hypnotized him and Big Barda to have sex with each other.
Right. Which is dumb on a scale I wish I didn't have to describe to anyone is dumb. They should just know it.
It's awful. Awful way down. So first things first, Gail Simone's entire thesis is wrong. This happens to male characters plenty, and probably in greater numbers than female characters.
Well, let's here's the thing. I'm not giving her any credit, but I do want to say this. Her thesis is wrong except where it's right, and it's only right in a very narrow defile. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
We should not fridge, quote unquote, fridging being the term for killing someone and stuffing them in a fridge, any character for the shock value. Right? And the fact
what's the difference between shock value and a character being motivated by a tragedy?
Right. That's the thing. It's about emotional context. And if that's your go-to answer to make emotional context, you have a problem.
Also, if rape is your go-to answer for emotional context.
Right. And the reason that I want to be very clear is because she is right if we use the exact language. Women as characters should not be killed to create emotional context for male characters as a go-to, as a standalone, as a thing we do all the time. Okay? But that's because you should have better emotional context, not because killing people important to a superhero is wrong. Right? That's not the problem. The problem is it's lazy.
Like, how long was Gwen Stacy Spider-Man's girlfriend before they killed her off?
Oh God, I have no idea. That's actually before my birth.
Yeah, but it was a multitude of years. It was a long time. And then Spider-Man spent almost half the run of his comic with Mary Jane.
Right.
And now they've had all sorts of fuckery with rotating in and out girlfriends. So you see, the thing is that if you do something dramatic, like having an ambiguous death where you're not sure if the villain or the hero was responsible for the hero's love interest dying, that's a once-in-a-generational card that you pull out of the deck. Because otherwise, it's just cheap and nobody wants to fucking buy the crap.
Well, because yet again, we have an example of this. Aunt May. Aunt May has died like 3 or 4 times, and I'm talking just about in comics, not even in film.
Yes, and not even in alternate reality comics. In the
Right.
main comics.
And the thing of it is that the idea of Aunt May dying and that this will deeply affect Spider-Man has never been a problem, right? The idea of her dying and it not having any gravitas because we know she's not going to stay dead is the problem. I'm even going to do the worst thing ever. I'm going to give Joey Q, that piece of shit, some credit. The basic thesis of One More Day, before it gets into Satan and your marriage and magical abortions, is actually solid.
Hey, you know what? You're right. One More Day was an abortion allegory.
Well, because here's the thing. Tony Stark gets Spider-Man's identity revealed. And after 50 years of saying, I have to hide my identity to protect my loved ones, he is proved correct. His loved one died for being Spider-Man. Because Tony fucked him. Right? Because Tony Stark didn't just out him and then protect him, which he did when he was loyal, but then he abandoned him and left him to the wolves when he broke with the Registration Act. And this, if anything else, this is proof that Tony was being a villain. Right?
Even though that was not what they wanted the fan reaction to be from all that.
But the first half of One More Day, right? Spider-Man goes to the Fantastic Four. We can't do anything. She's too old and frankly, their body's giving out. He goes to Tony. Tony's like, I could pay all the bills. Well, first of all, he tells Spider-Man to get to stepping, but he pays all the bills. He offers all the things. Best doctors in the world. We can't fix what's broken. She's a very old woman. She's been on death's door for decades. Right? Goes to Doc Strange, a literal wizard. The most powerful wizard on Earth. Right? And Doc Strange is like, the best I can do is I can stretch out this moment to give you the chance to say goodbye because everyone has an appointed hour. She's going to die.
But he also lets Spider-Man talk to all the wisest beings in the universe.
Right. And they all said, man, everybody's got to die sometime. This is her time. It's sad. Right? And here's the thing. We're supposed to think that then it's like, oh, well, only at that extreme, then the devil can get into you, right? And this is why One More Day was trash, right? But the emotional context is correct, right? She's not just dying for a whim. She's dying because people die. And people dying has always been what Peter Parker has ultimately supremely had to wrestle with. Uncle Ben is dead. I know they bring him back. There's time fuckery, whatnot. But I'm saying he was dead, and his death was personality shaping. Gwen Stacy's death was personality shaping. When these deaths have meaning and are long term, they have impact because the person that was before they were dead is not the person they are after they are gone, and they will never be the same again. And that's great. But you shouldn't do it with like casual disregard. These lives are not interchangeable. You can murder a million mutants and we won't care. But if you have one mutant die in bed and we have to watch them do it, that matters.
Indeed. Now, let me make sure I have this other thing pulled up here. I do. Now, something else I saw on the Twitter space, I think would be a very interesting discussion because, people always talk about Batman's no-kill rule. But somebody made a compelling argument about Batman's no-kill rule that I wanted to kind of dig into.
Okay.
And it's also going to be relevant because it's going to be Spider-Man related.
Okay, here we go.
Let's be honest here. Batman's no kill rule, in as much as him having this, is as much about him having great marketable villains that can return again and again, as in as is it is some in-universe moralizing. There's a reason the Punisher doesn't have a deep merchandisable rogues gallery, and also Spider-Man, who generally avoids killing, also has a deep rogues gallery. So, what do you think about the no-kill rule being the in-universe explanation for the out-of-universe need to preserve the Batman's rogues gallery from maximum marketability?
It's a serviceable argument, but it will always ring hollow because we will never see the actual answer to the opposite end. The closest we get is a abjectly bad comic that I don't like that we've talked about before.
You mean Absolute Unit Batman?
No, not Absolute Unit Batman. That one with the dude in the all-white suit who's a supervillain.
Oh yeah.
If you need an in-universe reason, the in-universe reason that Batman has suggested time and again, and nobody seems to understand, let's have a Batman book where Batman is a serial killer.
I mean, they've tried to do that with Jason Todd. Nobody cares.
Right, because Jason Todd is doing it like a superhero. I'm saying you need to do it like a horror book.
Wait, you're saying, or how about you do it like Dexter?
I mean, you could do it like Dexter, but I'm saying go deeper. Let's say, I want you to imagine for a minute. We're gonna do a thing. You take that Gotham PD comic book, okay?
Huh?
You do an Elseworlds. You do a what if. Batman is an urban myth. Everybody can handle that one. We like urban myth Batman, okay? Except urban myth Batman is an urban myth because he kills people. He's been killing people for 40 years. Nobody believes Batman is real.
And the police department doesn't want to admit to this because he kills bad people.
Right, he kills bad people. And you think it's going to be a Punisher thing. You think it's going to be a Punisher thing, right? So your focus character is a young policeman who's going to work with Officer Montoya for a while, right? And they go to a call, they sneak in all hero-like, and it's like, oh no, it's another one. Another one what? It's another bat attack. What does a bat attack look like? There's a dude. He's a bad guy. He's dead. He's been cleansed and his skin has been made to spread out like wings nailed to the wall. He's hanging from nails in the wall.
I mean, I think this is a great idea for a Black Label comic for DC.
But here's the thing. This is the key thing. You follow through on the investigation. Now they all know what it is, but you still have to do all the legwork, right? You got to collect all the evidence. No fingerprints, no DNA, no hair, no gun, no tools, no
fiber.
Nothing. He doesn't exist. There's just a corpse and no way of how he got in or how he did it, right? And then you start digging into the urban legend itself. You start talking to criminals. You start talking to hobos. You know, well, what do you know about the bat? What have you heard about the bat? You go to Vicky Vale, who's a half crazy conspiracy theorist yellow journalist woman who actually is a good journalist, but she's obsessed. And you just start going through all the reports, right? Because no one wants to believe that there's someone so good he can't be caught, who's so powerful that he can be anywhere and kill anyone at any time, right? And then, well, you don't reveal Batman. You have a side scene where Commissioner Gordon has to go to this stupid banquet, another fucking benefit, right? And he introduces this young cop to his best friend, Bruce Wayne. And Bruce Wayne is charming, and Bruce Wayne is smart, and Bruce Wayne is a fucking sociopath.
So what you really want to do then is you want to do something like that scene that's inferred in Red Dragon, where what's his face, Norton, I think it was
Ed Norton, yeah.
Ed Norton in the
he's playing Graham.
Graham, thank you.
Yeah.
Graham goes into the office and sees the stuff. It's like going, oh shit, Lecter's the serial killer.
Right. He puts it together.
And you need something like that with a young detective.
Right.
Something
Now,
that Bruce Wayne gives away.
right. And here's the crux. This is the secret. This is what Batman has been saying time and time again. The reason he doesn't kill isn't because the number of killers remains the same. Okay? And it isn't because it's morally wrong. It's because he's so smart and he's so capable that he knows if he started killing people, not only would he not stop, he would get away with it over and over again. Superman would never find him. Diana would never smash in his thing. They could take the cave out. He's still going to be killing people for decades. And they will never stop him. Batman's no kill rule in that context is not just a corporate mandate or wankery about we want to keep our best villains. It is Bruce Wayne, moral paragon, saying, I can't do this even though I really, really want to. Because if I start, I'm going to become worse than the things I fight.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good story.
Now, this reminds me of a recent story where they had Joker talk about the time he tried to bust in on Metropolis and he encountered Superman.
Right.
And Superman was like saying, no kill rule. I don't have one of those. I mean, I never needed to kill anyone. And he just looks at the Joker. But I mean, I suppose there's always a first time.
Right.
And the Joker was like, oh, this is not good. I need to leave.
Right. Well, the thing is that people think again that this is we're making Superman more hardcore because the Boy Scout is boring. Let's roll it back yet again. Let's think about Clark Kent because you got to actually think about the characters and context. Clark Kent's a farm boy.
Mm-hmm.
Now the Kents seem to grow corn. They got fields.
Well,
right?
I mean, that's what you do in Kansas a lot. There's a lot of corn.
But you have to assume they've got a cow, they got a pig, they got maybe a couple of horses. They got the usual things you have on a farm, right? They got chickens, right? And I suspect former soldier Pa Kent took Clark hunting at least once. Right? Clark Kent has midwifed animals. He has killed animals. He has seen animals die. He has dressed animals. Right? He knows
in the farm.
He knows how to kill people. Now, he was raised with the moral underpinning that murder is wrong. Because the Kents are good Christian people. They go to church on Sunday. Right? Clark Kent believes in God. But we are talking about people from a perspective and a culture in the Midwest, in America, right? Where there's also the idea of the bad guy who must be contended. The black hat shows up sometimes. And sometimes he's not going to stop just because of strong words or stick-to-itiveness or a step over lip. Sometimes you got to deal with that dude in his terms. Now, Superman has the advantage of powers and the responsibility to use them well. Absolutely, he should not kill people willy-nilly. But the fact of the matter is that Clark Kent, good boy from Kansas, looks at the Joker and says, "You are bad news. You will never get better. You will never not do these horrible things I can't abide. Killing you would be unfortunate, but acceptable." Because that's who Clark Kent is. Right? Bruce Wayne is the one with the moral rectitude that says I can never kill people, in part because he would become worse than the Joker, but also because, quite frankly, he has a child's understanding of morality because his parents died at the age of 7. Like I'm sorry, I don't go in for Batman is a damaged little child, but I'm not gonna say he doesn't have scar tissue. He absolutely does have emotional damage.
Mm-hmm. Uh, so let's talk about some of the other stuff I have here.
Woo!
Uh, there's apparently talk that the Jonathan Archer prequel sequel Star Trek might be getting made, talking about the formative conflicts that President Jonathan Archer has to deal with as president of the Federation, and he's doing that while he's a father with the younger children.
All right, so serious question, because let's cut through the malarkey. Is Kurtzman out for real?
We don't know that definitively, but all signs point to yes in a way that they have not previously pointed to yes.
Here's the
They
thing.
have physically demolished his sets.
Right. That means that Starfleet Academy will never come back, even as a reference.
No. They also dismantled Strange New World sets.
Oh. Okay. That's different.
Yeah.
Now I'll put to you, it's possible that maybe they just needed the space, but I get that. Here's what I'm getting at, though. We have been in that situation where all signs point to Kathleen Kennedy being out multiple times, and they kept her, right? And we've all argued one way or the other that
But
Kurtzman
I
should have
will
been out
say,
well before this, and they
but I will
kept him.
say, but I will say, when it came to Kathleen Kennedy, I actually had a source that explained why it didn't happen.
I mean, I'm sure there were reasons.
Well, no, there was one reason. There was nobody that the higher ups at Disney trusted to run Lucasfilm uh, who would take the job.
Right.
And eventually, Kathleen Kennedy agreed that here's some people you can trust. And they're like, fine, whatever.
I mean, I've heard there was a commentary. They claimed that Alex Kurtzman is actually a nice guy in person, but I've also heard counter arguments that he's not a nice person in competence. So who knows?
Yes.
Um,
But I'm more interested in what you think about this idea of president of the Federation TV show.
the reason I ask is Kurtzman out is I don't jump on board, even as somebody who's hopeful and thinks Star Trek will survive and endure this, and I don't go in for the blanket. It's space commies and it's terrible. I frankly believe that this announcement is too convenient following the failure of Starfleet Academy to truly be meaningful.
Well,
Right.
here's the thing. Starfleet Academy was a decision of the old corporate leadership.
Right, and the new leadership desperately needs to distance themselves from it. So we'll say, we've got a new show in the works. You're gonna love it. It's great. We're gonna get Scott Bakula back. And it's like, okay, but what are you really doing? Right?
Well, they actually are focused on a Star Trek movie as well.
Right. Now, do I think that a early Star Trek West Wing could work? Maybe. Could do. Do I think it's a good idea? While Scott Bakula is actually an excellent actor and deserves more credit than he gets, I do not think he was in a particularly good show. I don't think anyone is running to embrace Enterprise just because it is a Braga property.
Well,
Much in the same way that Kate Mulgrew being involved with Star Trek Prodigy did not make it good.
well, you see, Kate Mulgrew was burned, but the studio didn't care.
Yeah.
Scott Bakula and Enterprise isn't really burned. Most people at this point now say it failed because UPN failed.
And to be clear, by this same metric, Avery Brooks was burned and he wasn't even involved. Because no one has said otherwise, but I'm pretty sure he was not happy about his spoken word being used in Star Trek Academy without his permission.
He wasn't happy, but they still had to pay him.
Right. But then if they said came to him with hat in hand, say, "Could you please be Cisco for us?" I would not blame him if he said no.
I mean, the folks behind DS9 have been trying to get a legacy sequel show of their own.
Well, so is Tim Russ, but I don't think Star Trek Renegades is ever going to happen.
No. But what do you think? Like, my problem is that from the lore that had been established, there are a very limited number of things that they could do with the Star Trek prequel. They fucked up the Klingon War.
Yep.
They fucked up the Garth of Izar story.
Yep.
So there's the Romulan War that leads to the formation of the Federation, but that's before Archer becomes president. So they'd have to invent something new.
No, they don't. They have to canonize something from beta content.
Which one are you thinking of?
Something that I would like, something I think would do them well, something I think would fit within the scope of where Star Trek has gone and people have been getting with. They
You
need
want
to
to give
do
Larry Niven some money?
well, not the Kazinti, but yeah, let's give Larry Niven some money. No, I want to. I propose the Orion Syndicate mutiny.
Interesting.
Do you recall this event?
I don't recall that, but my knowledge of beta canon is not.
So in Starfleet battles, you fight the Orion Syndicate. You know, the Orions as space pirates, right? But one of their bits of lore that they came up with, which I think is actually a good piece for Star Trek, is that early in the Federation, so very, very early, which could be Bakula's time, right? There was essentially a Kane mutiny, the only mutiny that Star Trek or that the Federation has ever had. Okay, where let's say a fourth of the fleet defected to the Orion Syndicate. They said, "Thanks for the ships, thanks for the training. We want to make money. We out." And became pirates.
I mean, that could always be a fun show because it's space pirates.
Right. So you do a Federation space cop show where the Federation is in a heightened political state, and President Bakula is doing the best he can to hold it all in control, because there are literally former federales engaging criminal content, and your primary characters are faced with the social conflict of, well, they're bad because they're doing bad, but some of the people that are doing this have reasons for doing this.
I think that could be fun. I think that could be a fun show. Let's see. Oh, the other option I have here. This James Gunn using the Bechdel test is stupid because the Bechdel test is stupid.
As soon as I found out the Bechdel test was just a pop cultural creation, I was completely disinterested in it.
Well, I mean,
once you know that it is literally fake and gay, it loses all of its power.
Yeah. I also have encountered something today. I tried to watch an anime about a
Which
hitman
anime?
that gets, it's called, let me pull it up. It was on Netflix, and it's called Kill Blue. So it's about a super hitman who steals some advanced genetic engineering technology, gets turned into a 12-year-old, has to go back to middle school while being a middle school hitman.
I mean, that's stupid, but that's also funny, so I'm interested.
My problem with watching the first episode of the show is like, just took too long to get to the point of the plot. What they really should have opened with a middle school kid showing up at a crime scene instead of an old man showing up at the crime scene killing everybody, and the middle schooler just murdering everybody.
Anytime you're engaging in anime, the good guideline is watch 3 episodes. If after 3 episodes you don't like it, it's not for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the stronger opener would have been to have him as a 12-year-old kid just murdered 30 guys,
Oh yeah.
and then like you get into his tragic backstory with the fact that there was some issue with him and his ex-wife over their kid, and that's what led to his marriage declining and him becoming a criminal murder machine.
Right.
It's just one of those things where like, it's taking too long to get into this groove. And I've been encountering that more and more with content for streaming. It's just stuff. It, it's not developing in a like slow aging like wine sort of way. It's just developing like tar dripping through your pipes.
Yeah.
It's not good. It's not good. Although, do you remember that Navajo police procedural show I've mentioned in the past? They had
Lee Porn?
the one with Lee Porn as a character.
Yeah, no, I love those.
I was watching an episode from the new season, and they had a fun cameo where George R. R. Martin and Robert Redford were arrested in the Navajo jail. They were playing chess with each other. And Redford said, "Come on, George, finish the goddamn move."
I mean,
And
that is frustrating, but I appreciate the sheer ballsiness of having it.
And the main character, Native American, told George R. R. Martin the move to actually put Redford in checkmate. You see, George, if it weren't for the fact that you're taking the piss out of yourself now, you should just admit, I wanted it to go one way, but now that the show finished, I can't write it anymore. But there are other parts of the world people like, so I'm going to write those instead. That would have been better.
Well, here's the thing, because we talk about this over kids so often, but I want to mention this. People forget that George R. R. Martin is not a new talent. He was doing TV for decades.
He's
right?
done sci-fi and fantasy for decades.
Right. In that sense, it strikes me that he doesn't, even though he's made a lot of money and he's probably quite comfortable, he doesn't want to burn his ability to be involved in television and get products made. So he couldn't say what he really should have said from the get-go that I'm sure was in his mind, which is he didn't have the ability to just look at people and go, "Hey, look, I gave them a rundown. They took it a different direction. They took it a different direction. They burned my product. I can't finish it because they burned it."
You see,
Because that blame would harm him and them, and they're not going to go for that.
You see, I think he gave them an outline, and they executed the outline as best they could. He realizes that his plan for ending the whole series was dumb.
I mean, that might also be the case.
And George doesn't want to admit to that, and they don't want to admit to the fact that, like, yeah, all those things we said were cool and edgy twists that we added. These were actually George's notes.
See, I still think that on a certain level, the makers of Game of Thrones tried to fast track it, not because their actors were getting older and wanted to do other things.
They wanted the Star Wars money.
They wanted that Star Wars money. And that's what did them in. That is where the bad came from.
But I feel like from George's perspective, John killing Dany is exactly the sort of story he would have written.
Here's the thing. John killing Daenerys is not actually a bad play. The first bad play, in my opinion, was revealing that Jon Snow was a Targaryen. I know people had guessed at it, but it's just a stupid idea. Right? And it opens that whole gross incest pit again. which they had finally gotten away from. But sure, fine, whatever. No, what I think is actually dumb and what will destroy Game of Thrones is the post-death. Right? Daenerys dies, Jon Snow goes back into exile, and then the small council become the leaders of the free world, quote unquote, led by Tyrion, and it's just an oligarchy. Now, I mean, oligarchy is a viable governmental model, but quite frankly, without Daenerys Targaryen there, it's not like the her army of Unsullied would just go home. It's not like the horsemen would just go home. Everybody's just like, well, Daenerys is dead. I guess we're packing up and going. Like, no, do the whole thing. Have the civil war to follow a civil war. Have the succession crisis to follow a succession crisis. Have the new oligarchs have to arrange themselves in some new fashion. Have the peasant uprising where the people say we've had enough of this bullshit.
But
Again,
that doesn't close the story.
Here's the thing. You have Daenerys killed, right? You have your heroes lay out these potential things. You don't end it on a cliffhanger, because that's the problem. The problem is the presumption of, oh, well, we'll just have another story that will give us a penultimate ending. You end it on a character looking out the window, looking at the rubble, looking at the destruction, and going, we'll hold it together until the next story, the next cycle, right? Because that's what's actually going on, is it's cycles of violence. Daenerys Targaryen could not break the wheel. There you go. She could only change the people at the table.
Yeah. And the thing that still kills me is, quote unquote, who has a better story than Bran the Broken? I mean, damn near everybody.
Well, it's because Bran's story is nonsense. This is the thing. What is the actual story of Game of Thrones? If you really boil it down, where is the focus story?
I don't think it's focused. That's the problem.
No, I think it absolutely is focused, but George R. R. Martin wants you to believe that it's a sweeping epic across multiple kingdoms.
Right. But he really wants it all to be about global warming.
It's not about that either. If that was his goal, he fucked up immensely in concept.
I mean, that's what the Walkers are. The White Walkers are an environmental existential pandemic.
Well, then fuck you, George. Eat my asshole. So here's the thing. The actual story of Game of Thrones is about the civil war between the Seven Kingdoms in the West. That's it. It's the Lannisters, the Starks, and associated allies and enemies spinning wheels. Okay.
And the Targaryens then showing up at the last minute with an elbow off the top rope.
Right. Does anyone actually care about Daenerys Targaryen? I read the first book. I can safely say, no, nobody gives a shit about Daenerys Targaryen. Her story in the East is an entirely different book series that should be doing its own thing.
Also, realistically, George's text does not justify why there's a Targaryen loyalist cadre in Westeros.
Right. But the thing is that they say multiple times in the narrative, and it's true, her claim to authority, her legitimacy, is paper thin. Her legitimacy is, I'm a Targaryen, therefore I have legitimacy. No, you fucking don't. Because the Targaryens lost.
No. Her claim to legitimacy is, my name's Daenerys Targaryen and my words are backed up by dragons.
Right, one dragon. Oh wait, we
Well-
saw your dragons die.
Well, it was one dragon at the end. But by the
Right,
time
but-
of the end, she had allies and resources.
But that's
Blah,
the thing. Dragons can be killed. Your legitimacy is null and void. All right? Let us compare. We're going to go all the way back to the beginning of the show. Conan. Conan was a mercenary. Conan was a famous mercenary, which helps. Conan was the king, was the commander of the royal guard during a coup. He murdered the king. He took the crown. Did the noblemen ever support him? No, the vast majority of the nobles did not support him. Who did support him? The frontier nobles. Why did the frontier nobles support him? One, they were on the frontier. They had fought Cimmerians. They had fought other barbarians. They understood, yeah, this guy's tough. He can hold it together.
They were also
Right.
getting it in the neck from the Imperial Heartland.
Right, they were getting it from the Heartland. It favored them to support him. And so Conan was constantly playing center off against periphery. Who else supported Conan? The people. Well, what people? The commoners. Why the commoners? Because he imposed a general law that applied to everyone evenly. He reduced aggressive taxation. He improved the quality of living for his own nation. He did not get in wasteful wars of expansion. He did not get involved in stupid vendettas.
And
Right?
very frequently, when the military adventures happened, he went sideways, and then Conan just had to go do a Conan and murder the enemy by himself.
Right. Exactly. And he led from the front, a warrior king. The kind of thing that the bards sing of and curse at the same time. All the time. Right? Conan had, quote, a scrap of legitimacy, but his legitimacy was way stronger than Daenerys Targaryen's ever was. She was an
Yes.
invasive external invader claiming to be a queen. Get fucked.
And they never made an effort to do that. So at its core, that's not interesting.
Right.
Ned Stark was interesting, but he got killed.
Ned Stark was interesting, but he got killed. Even though I hate them, the Stark children are halfway interesting, but this is where we get into peripheral materials. I'm sorry, even though I personally am interested in it as a notional thing, nobody cares about the Southern Kingdom of Fire that's very Middle Eastern flavored. Fuck your sand snakes. I'm sorry, nobody cares. Okay? They're the hinterland. Their army, the Dornish armies do not make themselves felt manifest. The Dornish power is not present. Okay? It's things that happen a far way away. Okay, well, do we care about the Wall? Yes, the Wall is actually an interesting story by itself. If there was a story about the trials and tribulations of Jon Snow being commander of the Wall, I'd be down with that. But I don't care about it in the broader spectrum of Game of Thrones. And then it's like, okay, so what is Bran the Broken story? Well, the fact of the matter is we don't actually get Bran the Broken story. We get bits and pieces of Bran the Broken story. Because I can tell you what the interesting story of Bran the Broken would have been that we didn't get.
Well, I mean, he was a wizard, right?
No, not when he was a wizard. His becoming a wizard is the least interesting thing Bran ever did because his warging actually had no significance to the story. Even though he's like mind controlling people. I don't care. No. What was an interesting version of Bran that we didn't get to see would have been Bran the Horseman.
Okay.
Bran falls off the tower. That's awful. Bran was a lovely kid. Everybody's like, his life is over. He's doomed. Right? Tyrion Lannister brings him a saddle, a saddle design, says, raise him up with the horse and he will be as capable as any man. Right? If they had gone with that and they had him learn the lance and the bow and be a fucking menace from horseback, oh, give me that story. And you could still have him end up a wizard. How much better would it have been if the forces arrayed against the White Walkers had to go riding off with cavalry charges and flaming swords if Bran the Broken was in the saddle with them.
That would have been more interesting. So we're going to end a little early. We're still going to have to
Sorry,
figure out.
guys.
Well, no, I mean nobody's watching because we're not even on the regular channel.
I mean, yeah, but I still said, like, if anybody finds this, we're sorry.
No, this wasn't a bad show, but I'm ending a little early because we need to figure out how we're gonna juice this. I mean, we might download it and put it on the main channel,
Yeah.
or I might do a little find a way to get a bootleg broadcast on the main channel to say, hey, come over here.
we're gonna go Renegade Radio.
All right, so good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good.